We're on the top of Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, up to the end of line 3. Abaye misader marocha. Abaye will offer us an enumeration of a sequential type of the avoda, and Alibada B'Shol. And his presentation is predicated on the opinion of Abba Shol. And this has to do with the question of what comes first, Hatovas HaNeros or Haktoras HaKtores. And we're going to soon see that if you divide the Hatovas HaNeros into 2, 5, and then 5 Neros and then 2 Neros, so it's not done, there's no Hatovas HaNeros b'pamachas, 5 Neros, and then they do another avoda, then they get back, and they do Hatova on the remaining balance of 2 Neros. And on that, we're going to say that there's a machlokas between Chachamim and Abba Shol. And according to the Chachamim, what's going to happen between, well, let's say after the Hatovas 5 Neros and before Hatovas Shtei Neros, we're going to sandwich in the Haktoras Haktoras. And Abba Shol has a different approach. It has to do with the Dam HaTamid. And therefore, according to Abba Shol, the Ketores is going to be brought after the Hatovas Sheva Neros, after all 7 candles have been prepared, which means that according to Abba Shol, Hatovas HaNeros Kodemes LeHaktoras HaKtoros. Okay, now we go one by one. First, we have Maracha Gidola, which means that we set up what's called Shnei Gizrei Eitzim, and this is on the Mizbeach HaChitzon. And we're going to use, of course, these Eitzim to set up a Maracha. In fancy English, I think it's called a pyre, P-Y-R-E. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Anyway, a pyre. And this is going to be on the outside Mizbeach in the Azara for the purpose of burning the Evarim and the Emurim of the Karbanos. And that's going to be Kodemes Lemarocha Shniya Shel Ketores. Marocha Shniya means that we're going to set up Gecholim. In this case, we're not talking about Eitzim. We're talking about burnt wood that has already the status of Gecholim, which are going to be brought into the Heichal for the purpose of Haktoras Haktores in the Heichal, on the Mizbeach Hazov, in the morning, Baboker. We'll do it again a second time, but Erev, a second Haktoras Haktoras. But now we're talking about the morning Haktoras Haktoras. Now, Maracha Shniya Shel Ketores Kodemes L'Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. It seems from this Gemara that the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim are added, shall we call it cavalry, to beef up the fuel that's necessary to keep the Karbanos Aktara of the Karbanos going. So there's an initial Arichas Maracha Gdol Shel Eitzim, and then there's going to be a Maracha Shniya of Ketores, after which we're going to have Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. He quotes here a Rambam in the footnote, Tmidim Misof Perek Vov, Mitzvah min HaTorah laseis al hamarocha hagdola Shnei Gizrei Eitzim shenemar Ubir olel hakohen eitzim. Umiyut eitzim shnayim. Sidur shnei gizrei eitzim kodem lidishun mizbeach hapnimi. Every day on a daily basis, they cleaned out the ashes, that's called dishun ha'efer, on the mizbeach hapnimi on which they burnt the ketores. So after the burning of the ketores, we have afer that has to be cleaned off the mizbeach hapnimi. And the cleaning process is called bishun mizbeach hapnimi. But we're going to delay that until after Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Then we have bishun mizbeach hapnimi kodem latovas chamesh neros. So we have here two sticky kind of avodah, so to speak. We have one which is called dishun. We got to get rid of the afer from the aktoris in the mizbeach hapnimi, and then we got to get rid of those oils and wicks that were used up and remain in the menorah. And otzos hashemen v'apsilos shekavu. And again, we're just removing 5 out of the 7. He calls them bziche hamenorah. I'm not sure why you have to use that term exactly. Anyway, mitchila hayu mativim chamesh neros v'oz ovdim avoda cheres, and then they come back after another avoda v'shuv chozum mativim et shtei neros achronos, and we're going to have a clarification here about exactly which avoda they do between the 5 and the last 2. Okay. Now we get to Abshol. What happens after Avtovas Chamesh Neros is Dam Tamid. We're ready now for the Shechita of the Tamid Shel Ben Arbayim. And after the Shechita, we do the Zrikas Hadam. All this is going to have to take place before he completes the Hatavas HaNeros with the Hatava, the last 3 Neros. Dam HaTamid Kodem Latovas Shtei HaNeros Hanosoros. So what's left? Ketores. Latovas Shtei Neros Kodem Liktores. It just seems to me that we've completed the Atovas HaNeros according to this presentation. We started with 5. After completing that Atova 5, we got involved in the Shechita and the Zrika of the Tamid Shel Ben Arbayim, and now we're ready for Ketores. This means that Neros comes before Ketores. Hatovas HaNeros comes before Ketores. Haktores, okay, what's after the Ketores? Kodem le'evarim. Now we shechted the carbon tamid. We was zorek the dam of the carbon tamid. Now we have to take the murim and the varim of the carbon tamid, and we have to burn them on the mizbeach. We're going to wait until after the aktoras before we burn the avarim of the tamid on the mizbeach. So in effect, the aktoras splits or wedges in between two segments of the tamid. We have the first segment of the tamid that starts with shchita and culminates with zrika. The second segment of the tamid, carbon ola, is haktorah al gabi mizbeach, and in between, delaying, so to speak, the haktorah of the avarim of the tamid comes the aktoras. Now, by the way, I don't know if this is important. I'm just giving you my intuition. We're dealing with two different mizbachos. The tamid is brought on the mizbeach hachitzon, the ktores on the mizbeach hapnimi. So the ktores, which is now wedging in the middle of the avodas hatamid, is coming from left field, so to speak, or from the outfield, from the infield, I know, from the heichal, from the mizbeach hazah. He says, "Mitzvahs asay lahaktir aktoris al mizbeach hapnimi shebehechol pamayim b'chol yom boker ubein arbaim shenemar poskin shmos taf perik lamed vehiktir olav Aaron ktores samim baboker vehitivo es haneros yaktirenu." Ubalos Aaron es haneros bein arbaim yaktirenu. I mean, it's obvious that the Torah is connecting the Ktores with the Neros. I mean, with Hatovas HaNeros, but the exact sequence is not clear from the Torah. Now, how much Ktores do we burn on the Mizbeach on a daily basis? Maktir b'chol yom mishkal mea dinrim, chamishin baboker v'chamishin bein arbaim. So you're talking about a certain weight of incense, of samamonim, which is measured by the measurement of a coin, or in this case, mea dinrim. Okay. Geendigt. Finito. Aren't we finished now? Watch. We've done not only the Tamid Shel Shach, we've done Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim. In the middle, we did also the Hatovas HaNeros, and we did Aktoras Haktoras. So what's left? You're completing the Avodas HaTamid, Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim, with Haktorah. Haktorah of the Avarim. Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim ends the day of the Beis Hamikdash. What could possibly come after the Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim? Again, I'm not talking about Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach might have its own, its own system. And the Korban Pesach is brought after the Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim. But leave out the Korban Pesach now. I'm just trying to anticipate what karbanos could be brought after the Tamid Tov Ben Arbayim. We have halacha of Aleo Hashlim Kol Karbanos Kula. Says Abaye Eivarim Kodmin Lemincha. The carbon Tamid is a carbon Ola. And a carbon Ola has to be accompanied by a mincha. All right. So really, there's no big chiddush here, no big deal in Abai when he says that a varim kodmim lemincha, because the mincha is an adjunct or add-on carbon to accompany the tamid. So obviously now he's completed the tamid. He started with zrikas adam, after shchita, etc., etc. Now he's already at the stage where they've done the Haktarah. So at that point, he's finished the process of the Tamid. He has to bring the Mincha because the Tamid has to be accompanied by a Mincha. He writes here, Im karbanat Tamid, are you meviim nisachim? Kimefurash b'Torah v'asiris ha'efa soles lemincha. What could be after the Mincha? I mean, we finished the Tamid. Umincha lechavitin. So the Kohen Gadol has a unique obligation on every day of the year. He has to bring his chavitin. He has to bring his minchas chavitin. Why is he bringing it after the Tamid? On a daily basis, the Kohen Gadol is makriv 12 chalos that are baked from asiris ha'efa soles, and this is called chavitin because chavitin comes from the word machvas, which is a frying pan. And after he has these chavitim, the Kohen Gadol brings a mincha every day. And that process has to be split into two. Why? Because the Kohen Gadol's obligation of minchas chavitim is connected to the Tamid. I mean, I think that's why we're going to allow the minchas chavitim of Bein Arbayim to come after the carbon, the avod of the Tamid. Because this is already a clincher. It's the completion of the avodas hatamid. And the proof is because the minchas chavita has to be brought twice daily. Half of the asiras, half of the asara chalos are going to accompany the tamid shel shachar, and the other half in the evening, the tamid shel ben arbayim. So you see very clearly that the Minchas Kohen, which is called Chavitin, is an adjunct, it's an auxiliary carbon that attaches itself to the tongue. Okay. What could come next? Chavitin kodem linisachim. This is also an accompaniment of the carbon tongue. We're talking about niskei yayin. What could come after the nisachim? Nisachim kodem limusafim. Now we're talking about Shabbos and Yontif or Rosh Chodesh. The Musaf is going to come after the Talmud. Which Talmud are we talking about? We're talking about the Talmud Shel Ben Arbayim. Why should the Musaf come after the Talmud? Umusafim libazichim. I don't know what's going on over here because until now we've been discussing the Talmud Shel Ben Arbayim. Now I think somehow the Gemara is dropping the Talmud Shel Ben Arbayim. He says Nisachim limusafim. Let me just see if he says anything here. Why should the Musafim come after the Nisachim? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. He has a footnote here, number 12. Maybe that'll. Nothing. He says if it's Shabbos. So I'm just going to take a stab at this. I think we touched on this question when we were learning Talmud Nishchat in Psachim. But I don't remember all the details. If you remember, please, without embarrassing me, remind me. It has something to do with the fact that no. Right. The Musaf has to come after the Talmud Shel Shachar at 11 o'clock on a perfect day. Let's go on. Maybe this is a missing piece of the puzzle, but maybe it'll fit in a minute. He says now, Musafim lebazichin. Now the bazichin were connected with the lechem apanim. And now we're talking about Musafim, so we're talking about Shabbos. Let's talk about Musfei Shabbos. I mean, again, there are other days of the year that have Musafim, but let's focus on Shabbos. So now it's Shabbos, and we have the avoda, the lechem apanim. We have a levona that accompanies the lechem apanim, and that has to be burnt on the mizbeach on Shabbos. And this should be taking place after the Musaf. So the Rabbosai, I begin to understand now that Abaye at this point has made a shift. As far as the weekday is concerned, he's completing with the Nesachim, right? We had the Chavita, the Kohen Gadol, after the Talmud, and that has to be accompanied by Nesachim and Gandik. That's where this paragraph ends. Now we start a whole new paragraph. And we're talking about Shabbos now. And we're talking about Shabbos morning. The Talmud Shel Shachar has been brought. The Musafim are now going to be brought. And now we get to the lechem aponim. And the lechem aponim come after the musaf. That's what Abai say. What goes on the mizbeach with regard to lechem aponim? It's the levona. It's not the lechem aponim itself that gets eaten by the kohen. Oh, I'll prove it to you. Look at the next one. Ubazichin kodmin. I'm adding that word, right? Kodmin l'tomid shel bein arbayim. Breathe easy, Burzon. We're talking before the tomid shel bein arbayim. On a weekday, the tomid shel bein arbayim is the closure of the day. And anything that's accompanied or auxiliary to the tomid shel bein arbayim, that's going to complete the avodah of the day. There's no musafim here. Oh, but on Shabbos, the musafim come after the tomid shel shachar. Obviously, before the tomid shel bein arbayim, that's going to close the day. And the question now is, where do we put the lechem aponim? What do I mean the lechem aponim? I don't mean the lechem aponim have to be removed from the shulchan. That's not relevant to that discussion. We're talking about Seder Maracha on the Eish Torah. We're talking about the Levona. And that's what he's saying here. That, just 1 second, I lost the place. That's what he says here. Ubazichin kodmim l'tomid shel bein harbayim. And the bazichin have to come after the musafim. That's going to be a major machlokas. Let's see if he points this out in the note. All right. I wouldn't die from this question. They're bothered why Abai doesn't go through the entire Seder of Tomid Shel Bein Arbayim on Shabbos and tell us about Adlokas HaNeros and the Haktaras Haktores. So Abai didn't feel he was compelled to repeat the whole story. He's just focused on the question of Musaf and the relation between the Musaf and the Bazichim. How do we know that the Tomid Shel Bein Arbayim is last on the list? And this is true for both a weekday and Shabbos. Shenemar, v'hikir oleh achel be'ashlomim. When the Torah speaks about the Tomid Shel Shachar, and then it says v'hikir oleh achel be'ashlomim, what does the word ashlomim mean here? I mean, after the Tomid Shel Shachar, what shlomim are being brought on the Mizbeach? It means, hashlomim means hashlem. Hashlem kol hakorbanos kula. Oleh means that after the Tomid Shel Shachar, we're going to bring all the korbanos and we're going to complete the entire process with the Tomid Shel Bein Arbayim. Ulalamed, he writes here, she Tomid Shel Bein Arbayim hu achron l'chol hakorbanos. Good. Very good. Omar Mar, we'll just finish it up. Maracha gedola kodemes li'maracha shniya shel ketores minolon. Tisanya, we learned in a brisa, he ha'olal mokta ala mizbeach kol halayla. Zo maracha gedola. And the pasuk continues and says, "V'yesh hamizbeach tukad bo zu maracha shniya shel ketores." So first comes the Ola al Mokda. And what does the word Mokda mean? It means Maracha. Again, there are many different Marachas, but we're talking about the Maracha Gdola and the Mizbeach HaChitzon. And then only afterwards is Eish HaMizbeach Tukad Bo. And the Eish HaMizbeach Tukad Bo is not the Eish of the Ola in this case, but rather the Eish of the Ketores. So we have here Siddur Maracha Gedola, and then we have what we call the Maroch of the Ketores, the Marocha Shnia. Now, when later on, when Abai says that we have Hatovas Haneros, Kodem Lidam Hatamid, he's talking about the first round of Hadlokas Haneros, which is going to take place in the morning before the Tamid, before even the Shechita of the Tamid. It says Dam HaTamid. Let's not get confused and think that Dam HaTamid means Rika without Shechita, as if to say the Shechita took place earlier and then it was Hadlokas Haneros, etc., etc. No. After the Hadlokas Haneros, they're ready for the Shechita, culminating with Zrikas Hadam. Then we're going to talk about completing the process of Hadlokas Haneros, of Hatova Shtei Neros. And in between the 5 and the 2, we're going to have, according to Abishol, the Dam HaTamid. So the Dam HaTamid, which means Shechita and Kabbalah, Halacha, and Zrika, all that is going to take place between the Adlak of the 5 Neros and of the 2 Neros. And this is with regard to Talmid Shel Ben Arbaim. Okay, then, so let's just make a note of where we got to end this wonderful week. So we're here. Where are we? Why does it say? 1 second. I don't know. Somehow the page got moved here. He says, I don't know. I don't know what just happened. Somehow. Okay. Very important to me. Otherwise, yeah. So here we're on Lamed Gimel Amid Aleph, and we're up to Omar Mar. Where is that? All right, we'll find it. I don't want to hold you up. Omar Mar. So it's midway between the Tosas Michlal and the Tosas Afilu. Let me take this opportunity. Again, today is Yom HaShoah, so it should be, a meaningful day for all of us. And